Hey memers and streamers, it's Fracken here again. So if any of you guys live in a rural area and you're thinking about Telus, especially Telus Mobility for their smart hub as a internet option, as somebody that's had it for probably pretty close to 10 years now, I figured I would do a video for you guys so you can actually see what it's all about. Now, one of the first things that's going to happen is if you have issues, you're going to phone Telus and they're going to be like, okay, well, here's what we want you to do. We want you to go to speedtest.net. That's where we're at. And we want you to type in speedtest.net in your browser, and we want you to go there and hit the little go button. So we're going to do that. Okay. So now speedtest.net is building up its software stack. It's sorting things out, getting its ducks in a row. And now we're off to the races. And it's not great. It's supposed to be a 25 to 35 megabit connection, but, 20, that's not bad. And now it's just about done here, and it's going to do its upload, which is consistently faster most of the time, but today it's about the same. So, 16 megabits a second roughly, give or take. So, we're only about 2/3 roughly of, where we should be, but whatever. Now, the important part about this is the latency. It claims that the latency is 40 milliseconds, right? So 0.04 seconds. That's idle latency. It claims that the latency in download is 230 and upload is 430, roughly. Now, those are not great. Definitely not great. Now here's the important part. Okay, if we go and we look at the radio, and here's something else that I think I should mention. This particular radio, which is an MF275R from ZTE, it's an LTE radio on one end and a cute little router and bridge all in one box. It's like a little cell phone in a box. But anyway, this particular unit has got very, very serious issues. The biggest issue of which is you cannot change passwords. The password on every single MF275R from ZTE that Telus has sold, the root password is admin to log into that radio remotely, and it cannot be changed. You can try and change it, but the very first time that the radio has an upset, gets kicked from the tower, or has some fault, the radio resets itself to factory defaults and reboots itself. Which is why, if you've got one of these things, you'll notice that every once in a while the internet is down for a good solid couple minutes, and then everything's fine again. Well, the internet wasn't down. What was happening is the radio itself was rebooting. And this isn't a guess. I've looked at multiple people's radios in multiple people's houses that are connected to multiple towers. All of the radios that were sold in the local area where I'm at here by Telus all have the same behavior. But, so that alone is not a great start. But anyway, the reason why I wanted to show you the radio screen is we're connected to LTE. We know it's Telus, right? Telus LTE, and we've got 4 out of 5 bars. Most of the time I've got 5 out of 5, but this particular tower is 4 out of 5. So this is the kind of throughput that we're getting with 4 out of 5 bars, right? Now, here's the important part. How useful is that 15 megabits a second? Well, here's the actual latency period while we were doing that speed test. And what you'll notice is that we had a continual upheaval in latency that ranged between half a second to as high as 1.2 seconds. That's 1200 milliseconds. Now to put this in perspective, the latency between the location where I live in Australia, mainland Australia, and back is about 250 milliseconds, a quarter of a second, right? So, just hitting speedtest.net, our latency jumped up to about, almost 1.5 seconds, 1.2 seconds. Okay, so here's what we're going to do while we're doing this. So the first thing that's going to come to mind is, well, maybe that's the latency because you're on Wi-Fi, so it's, you probably got terrible Wi-Fi. Well, here's what we're going to do, okay? So WinMeter actually allows you to ping multiple hosts at the same time. So when you ping your foreign host, it pings not just that foreign, that distant host, but it pings every single resolvable hop in between. So in this case, 192.168.0.1 is that radio. So, like looking at this, it's pretty clear that the latency isn't that bad. So here's what we're going to do again. We're going to do another speed test, and I want you to watch what happens here with our latency, right? So right now, last will be the last latency of that. So we're already looking at a half a second, more than half a second to the tower. This will be in the tower. So, right, like we're talking sub 1 millisecond ping times while this is all going on to the radio. It is not the Wi-Fi. Okay, and the reason why I know it's not the Wi-Fi is, first of all, we just proved it to you. Oh, there's one up to 2 milliseconds. We just proved to you that the latency is not in the link between the laptop and the Wi-Fi. And the other reason I know is because it doesn't matter whether you do it from a 100 base T link, you know, through to the radio, or if you do it over the Wi-Fi, it doesn't matter. It always shows the same behavior. Yeah, now look, we're down to 3 megabits a second for a download and 15, well, almost 16 for an upload. So again, we're going to take a look and see what happened during that period. So again, our latency here at some points is almost 1 second worth of latency. Now, to really kind of flesh this out, what we're going to do is we're going to start sucking down a couple of bigger files. We're going to pretend that we're, you know, I don't know, downloading some. We're going to install BSD, so we're going to suck down some ISOs here. Okay, so right now we've got 4 megabits coming down, and here just to make sure, we're going to sneak that up so you can see. So you're seeing this in real time, right? Like our latency tends to bounce between 1 to 5 milliseconds, right? Like it's, the problem isn't there. But you will notice that the link between the radio and the tower is ridiculously bad. So let's actually have a look here. So yeah, our latency with 4 megabits a second worth of throughput. Now 4 megabits a second is about a fairly high bitrate video from YouTube. Not really high, but like say a 720p to a 1080p depending on the content. And you know, for me it tends to be about a 1080p with the kind of content that I watch. And that's having one video playing, right? I don't mean a house full of people playing this. I mean me as an individual, just, right? So yeah, now we're down to 3 megabits a second, and let's take a look at our latency. So we're over 1 second latency during this download at 3 megabits a second. Now let's take a look again at our signal strength. Now this is real time. This is updating real time, right? Let's prove it. Let's just refresh the page. 4 to 5 bars. So it's not like I'm, you know, trying to pull something funny here. And you can see here in our latency, if we scroll down, it'll tell you what these mean. So you have your minimum, maximum, average, and deviation. So you can see that the deviation with 3 megabits a second, we're at about 1 second worth of latency here, and there's not a lot of deviation. It's just packets are just taking half a second to get out, half a second to get back. And when I say a half a second to get out and back, I mean from here to that tower and back, right? From that tower to the rest of the world, you know, as far as being an end user, it's like having internet from, I don't know, it's like being, say, 10 times the distance of the moon to the Earth in space, and then having a big long Wi-Fi link over that distance, you know, like I don't know how else to put this. It's not good. It's just bad. And it's not like we've got a whole bunch of data over this link. You know, we've got 5 megabits a second coming over that link, and our latency is absolutely terrible, right? 1047, 1077, 1000. Now here's the really important part. This is actually one of the better towers. They actually do have one tower where whatever firmware they have that's causing these problems, or whatever traffic shaping they've got that's causing these problems, whatever, that one tower out of about a half a dozen does not have these problems. But every single other tower than that one has these problems. Now that other tower, when you do a speed test like this, you can suck down 25 megabits a second, and your latency jumps from say 40 milliseconds up to, I don't know, maybe 70 to 80, right? So it about doubles. But I mean, that's reasonable. You can still use Discord, you know, so on and so forth. Right now, if you were on a Discord call, it would sound like this. Hey guys, wait. And then we went to... hear me now? I mean, that's literally what you'd be hearing over a Discord call. So, I mean, effectively what this means is, as an end user, this is a single user setup, because if you had a single other user on this network, it would be absolutely useless for anything other than watching videos and looking at web pages, and doing so with great patience. Because anything real-time like gaming, Discord, you know, VoIP, like, I don't know, pick a provider, they would all be busted. So, but now I've done this exact same kind of testing on the new Starlink stuff. Totally different ballgame altogether. 100 megabits a second, maybe down to 50 to 80 during really serious peak periods. But the downtime is a fraction of what I have, even with these terrestrial towers. The big thing that's important for somebody like me is you can pull down, so say you're getting 100 megabits a second on that link. You can be pulling down 99 megabits a second and still carry on a Discord conversation, because your latency is still only about, you know, maybe 100 milliseconds at most, something like that. I mean, you know, like most of the latency that I seen was, say, 70 milliseconds on average, somewhere around there, 60 to 70. So, but anyway, I mean, this is just what you're going to have depending on where you're at. Now, again, I can't say that every area is like this, but we've got about a half a dozen towers in the area, and only one is not like this. And for the record, reasonable latency tends to be under about 100 milliseconds, right? Like if you're a gamer on the internet and you see somebody with a ping of 250, you're not happy. You know, if you're a reasonably competitive gamer and you see somebody with 100 millisecond latency, you're like, yeah, I don't know. Is he in China or Australia, or, you know? So, needless to say, it's not a lot of fun as an end user, but I mean, I don't have any other choice. So, you know, that's kind of where we're at. But that's kind of why I also made this video, is so hopefully one of these days it'll give Telus a poke in the bum and they'll get on top of it. But anyway, that's it for now, guys. You know, myself, if I was you and you had the two choices, you know, I would, if Starlink is available where you're at and they're willing to give you, you know, I would go with it, because it's realistically, I mean, the biggest reason why I stayed with this for a long time is I was only paying something like $70 a month. It's almost $100 a month now, which is very close to Starlink, and this is what you're getting, right? Realistically, I would pay $15 to $20 a month for this if I had the option. It's that bad. But anyhow, yeah. So, I mean, again, you can see this entire time, the worst packet we had through between over the Wi-Fi link was 41 milliseconds. Our average is 2 milliseconds. It is not the Wi-Fi. Anyhow, guys, that's it for now. GG's and 7 threes.